Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Friday Fundamentals webinar on designing an outdoor living space. My name is Colin, and today we'll be focusing on drawing a deck with a screened-in porch, a privacy wall, then creating an outdoor kitchen. Some tools that we'll be using will include grade lines to lower the back portion of the property, vegetation polygons to generate copies of a symbol within an enclosed area, and drawing a fence. I may go through some aspects quickly and won't be able to address questions, but we are recording this and posting it to our YouTube channel. So what I wanted to show you first is what we'll be ending up with today. So as you can see off to the left, we have the deck with the screened-in porch, the fireplace, the privacy wall off to the side, and then a pathway to the outdoor kitchen in the back left corner. All right, and if you were going to try to recreate this at a later time, the base for this session here is just one of our two-story sample projects that you should have in your install folder. Okay, so let's switch over to our blank project and get started. I wanted to draw the deck first, so with the main floor in drawing mode, let's start by going to draw a deck. We'll come out about 10 feet or so. You'll notice in the status bar near the top right, it'll give us our measurement, so roughly how long that side of the deck will be, or whatever it is you're tracing. So we'll draw the upper portion of the deck first, just along the house. And then add the lower deck as a separate portion, coming out about an extra 10 feet or so. I wouldn't worry about being exactly accurate right out of the gate. SoftPlan's intended to be more of a sketch and edit program. So we'll just manually be sketching these out today. Now that we've drawn that second deck polygon, there's also a chamfer tool I wanted to show you. So going up to Tools, Chamfer, we can click on two edges of the polygon and set the length of the chamfer in this dialog that pops up. Just instead of tracing it manually, it can be applied after the fact. So let's take a look in the 3D view of what we've drawn so far. We'll want to lower this portion here. So just setting the offset in the common tab, we want to set it to a foot down so it's sitting right on the property. To cover the edges of the deck, we can edit the deck edges from the floor plan or in the 3D view just from the right-click menu, enable skirting, and you can set the height. We'll put it to about 1'8" in this case, and use repeat edit to apply it to the other edges of that upper deck. Now you'll notice that I have the surface boards visible and they're currently going left to right, so oriented horizontally. What you could do is right-click an edge of a deck, and if we wanted the surface boards to run parallel to this angled edge, we could set the surface reference edge from the right-click menu and have them angled accordingly. So you'll notice that edge is now represented with a triangle instead of a circle. The triangle off to the right is for the deck joists rather than the surface boards. I had turned off the visibility for the deck joists just to make things a little less busy on the floor plan. If you did want to turn those back on, they should be on by default, but just go up to Options, Visible Items, and then Decks off to the left, and we could turn on the deck joists. All right, but for this lesson, I'll keep them off just for simplicity. All right, so then we'll add a stair off to the side, coming down the upper deck. So up in Draw Deck Stair, we'll choose from the straight library and choose one with 3 risers. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the first click is the bottom of the stair. So we'll start by clicking away from the deck and then to the left. And if it's close enough to the deck edge, it should snap to it. Now that it's been drawn, we can edit it to our liking. For example, setting the width to 4'6". Okay, so we have the decks drawn. Now let's add a screen porch. So we'll add the screen porch wall type. So in this case, when I go to draw a wall, they're at the bottom of my wall list. We'll be using a screen wall and a privacy wall today. So for the 3.5 screen wall, we'll start up in this corner, come all the way to the edge. And then because it's an asymmetrical wall type, it does require that third click to indicate what direction the exterior will face. So we'll click once more and then add the remaining edges. So there's the screen wall that we have so far. Now, just to show you a brief overview of the wall definition, let's edit it, go to definition, and I have a few materials in here that I added. So one is a full height screen material, and the other ones act more like plates. I just have them set to a solid wood beam material. So we have a double plate at the top, one at the bottom, and one 3 feet up. And I have fixed enabled for them so that they retain their size and position in the wall if the wall height will change in the drawing. And then bearing would be for soft list, or if you needed a roof edge to be able to reference that wall when in roof mode, which in this case we will need. Now I also changed the display height, which we can find in the options tab. So I have it cutting through one of the top plates so that A, we can see it in the floor plan, and B, so that we'll see it in roof mode when we draw roof over top. So instead of having a none material going all the way through the wall, we could just move the display height or that cut line to control what materials are being cut through. And that also would apply to, say, a wainscot wall that would be, say, half brick and half siding. You can control what part of the wall is being cut through and then represent it on the floor plan. Okay, so that was just a quick overview of the screen wall. Let's zoom in a bit here and add the privacy wall off to the side. Now this one I created myself, so we'll add this along the left, but it's just made up of a single wall material. And if you did want to view two tabs simultaneously, so if we're working on a floor plan in the model and you wanted to see it update in the 3D view, we'll split this so that we can now see both tabs at once. So this is the privacy wall that I drew. You'll notice that it has vertical boards running across it. If we edit that wall and go to definition, I just have a single solid material, but I applied a profile to it. So this one is just the square 2x4 profile, and I have it spaced at 10 inches. Now just keep in mind that the profile spacing is the space between the profiles, not necessarily measured on center. So just something else to keep in mind when you're setting the profile spacing if you have a profile assigned to that wall material. And then we'll want to reduce this height a little bit. Let's set it to 6 feet in this case. All right. So we have the walls drawn. Now let's add some posts and space them throughout these walls. So just going to the main floor and draw post, we'll add a 4x4 pressure treated post. Since we're going to make a few changes to them, I'm just going to add one for now. Use the arrow keys to place it accurately, and then edit this to our liking. So some changes we'll want to make. We'll be making sure that it's the proper height. For example, 8'10.75. And make sure that the pad is turned off. This is more just for design purposes rather than structural. And then set the offset to 0. So there you can see the post is now the proper height. It has the settings we want. Now we can copy it across these screen walls. So what I would do here, since there are multiple items in this area, is right click so that we copy the item that we want. Go to copy and move it all the way across to the right wall. So I'm just using the arrow keys to move it in 1/8 increments in certain directions. Place it, but then turn on equally spaced between. And what this allows you to do is set the number of copies from where we placed that second post. So we'll put in 4 total, press OK. So now you can see those posts are now evenly spaced across that wall. And we'll do the same thing for the right and left wall. So using that copy command again, place it roughly against the wall, equally spaced between, and set it to a few copies. Now let's go 3 in this case. And maybe for this one, we'll have, oh, let's do 3 for this one too. Okay, so there we have our posts. And just do it once more for the privacy wall. Um, Without having to draw a new post and make the same changes, we could use draw select. So going to screen wall, or actually the pressure treated post, and then draw select. We could then draw that same item in another location, and it already has those specifications. All right, and we'll do the same thing here, copying this post along the privacy wall. Equally spaced between, and choose a couple of copies. But you'll notice in 3D the posts are a little high, so we can edit these posts and adjust their height down. Let's say around, let's go 7 feet. And once we've done it for one, we can use repeat edit. All right, and now for some additional symbols that we'll be adding around the deck. And then we'll be adding the fireplace and then the roof over top. So let's go to draw symbol. The first one, we can add an exterior clock. Place that along this wall. Now, since if you're going to be adding multiple walls types or multiple different types of symbols, you can keep the dialog open without having to close it each time. So we could push this to the top left corner, for example, and just keep searching. So the next one will be a bench. Down to the bench back 03, place that along the same wall, and then look for an assembled patio set. So some of SoftPlan symbols are assembled. So for example, as you can see here, an assembled bed set or for an office or for a living room. So they're just symbols that are made up of multiple symbols. We'll go with the assembled patio set here. So it's made up of a couple chairs and a table in between. More of a time saver, so you don't have to look for each individual component. Right, and then for a bit of decoration, we could look up a vase. Place that here. For a symbol like this, it would be set to stack. So if it sees any other symbols or cabinets in that area, it will automatically offset up to sit on top. And for a carpet, depending on the item that you're looking for, you may not have to type the entire symbol in. And then looking off to the left, it'll tell you where it's saved. For example, this one's under SoftPlan Plus, Crate and Barrel. We can add a rug in this area. And then even add some ivy to the privacy wall. This one, so it's basically a solid plane that we can place against it and then adjust its size accordingly. The last one will be the dry stone wall in the landscape SoftPlan Plus Rocks library. And we'll place this off to the side. So looking at it in 3D, we'll have to make some adjustments. We could do this in 3D or we could do it in plan, but you may find it easier sometimes in 3D if you just wanted to eyeball it. So selecting the adjust item command gives us these red grips. So we can adjust it to the left, adjust it to the right, adjust its height. And for this symbol here, we just need to offset it down a foot. Just make sure that we put in the negative. And we could adjust it with here the same way we did for the ivy. There we go. All right, so next we want to add the roof. So I'm switching over to the second floor plan. Typically, you may want to have the entire roof represented on one drawing. So in this case, I have the second floor open, but I've turned on multiple floor roof. And the reason for that is so that I can see all of the walls, beams, and posts that are bearing um, on the floor below in the model. So that's why we can see these screen walls in roof mode. So we'll start by tracing our roof. And don't worry about being exact. As long as you're somewhat close to the walls, the roof edges will find it. And we want the front edge to be a gable. And then these sides to be a hip with a 5-inch pitch. So since I've already done it for one edge, I can use repeat edit and apply it to the other. For the gable end, when it's referencing a wall, um, it'll be matching the material of the wall below, which in this case is that solid wood beam of the screen wall. So in this case, we could edit the gable edge and choose to select a different material like siding A, and even have it reference a profile like the house does. So going into gable end profile, we could go down to siding and choose a 6-inch siding profile so that we can actually see the panels sticking out from the gable end rather than it just being a flat vertical surface. There we go. So the roof is done. Now let's add the chimney, which is fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of drawing a few walls and editing them accordingly. So just using 2x4 brick for this example, let's just draw a rectangle. Okay, and we want to make sure that cleanup is turned off so that they maintain the offset that I give it. So going to the common tab, turn off cleanup. Typically you'll want to keep cleanup on for walls that would say automatically offset on top of a floor system, but in this case, I want them to stay exactly where I put them, so I'm turning it off. Make sure that the offset is 1 foot down, and then set the height to 22 feet. Then I can use repeat edit to the other walls that make up that chimney. So as a group, I can move them into place. So we could use move block, bring them down, and move them into the screen porch. Now, if you did want a chimney cap on top, we could go into draw symbol and search for some chimney caps. In this case, I'll just choose the chimney cap 01 double. So those ones are in fireplace chimney cap, if you were curious. So as you can tell, this search field in the draw symbol dialog is pretty powerful. So a lot of these symbols have tags embedded within them. So when you do search using certain keywords, they'll come up in the list of results. Now, because this chimney cap symbol wasn't the size I was looking for, I just had to use the adjust item command to adjust each edge to the edge of these brick walls. And you can edit this symbol and manually offset. You can see it's set to stack currently, but we can manually set it if you need to. Set it to, say, 22 or 21 feet, just to make sure it sits on top of these walls. Okay, now for the inside. So just to create this fireplace look, what you'll want to do is add an arch opening to cut a hole into the wall and then place a fireplace symbol into it. Zooming in on this area, let's go to draw opening arch. So just using a blank opening is fine. Place that in the front wall, and then we can make some changes to it. So let's edit this arch opening. If you did need to change the width or height of an opening, just make sure that the product code is unchecked. So let's make this 3'4", height of 2 feet, and then we'll need to offset it up about 2'6", just so that it's placed up in the wall. You'll probably want to turn the sill off. So now we have a place for the fireplace symbol to go. So going back to draw symbol, there's an insert series with a few different interior fireplaces. So we'll just choose the first one. So these are under SoftPlan plus Amonte. So then once the fireplace has been located, then we can move it into place against the brick walls. And then to place it vertically, you could edit it or just move it in 3D. And as long as you're staying along these yellow lines to stay along that plane, um, you should be okay. But you can always go into the edit menu afterwards to make some precise changes to its offset. But there's the interior fireplace. Just took a minute or two to create it. Not too bad. So now let's move over to the site plan. So we're going to be adding some grade lines and that outdoor kitchen. But actually, one last thing before I do that is to add a railing. Almost forgot. So going up to draw deck railing, I'm going to go to the standard round and add that on this side. Okay, and right click when you're finished. If you didn't need a grab rail on the side of the stair, we can edit that railing segment, go to the rail edge tab, and just turn off the grab rail checkbox. And if you did need to adjust the height of the post, you can edit it and adjust the height and the position in this location. So for instance, you could set that to 0. You could adjust the height accordingly, or even say that to 1 foot down. There we go. Okay, so just in a few minutes, we have our deck and our chimney created. Now let's go into the site plan. Now, to get a position of where the deck is, to get an idea of where it is, we can turn on an overlay of the main floor within the site plan by going to File, Overlay, then selecting the floor that we want. So in this case, choose the main floor. So here we can see the location of the deck, the walls on the drawing, posts, and even the fireplace. Okay, so let's add our grade lines next. So going up to, we'll make sure that we're in site mode. So I was in floor system mode there just a second ago. So just make sure when you do go to File Overlay, we select our drawing that we want. So now we can see those items in site mode as well. I had just made all of these site polygons visible in floor system mode. That's why it looked like site mode. So now let's start by adding the grade lines. So we'll add them a few feet away from the deck. So up in Draw Grade, Grade, choose the spline method. And let's start from outside and turn on the cursor snap so it snaps right to the edge of the property. And we'll just add this across the property polygon. When you're finished, right click, and then we can set the offset. For this particular one, we'll keep it set at 0, and then we can add copies upwards. So using the copy command, we can select the grade line, move it up. We'll set the count to 3 and the spacing to 2 feet, and press OK. So starting from the first copy, we can set this to 1 foot down, edit this one, set it to 2 feet down, and then this one will be 3 feet down. Now that we've done that, we'll also want to edit the corners of the property and set it to the proper elevation. So we want the back of the property to be level. So we'll want to edit these vertex points and set it to that 3 foot down as well. Perfect. Actually, make sure that it's the proper direction. So that needs to be 3 feet down. Okay, and now we can add a stair from the deck, bridging the gap between the upper and the lower portion. So we'll switch back to drawing mode. I've made all of the site polygons visible in drawing mode as well. So just going up to Options, Visible Items, and going to the Site category, just so that I would know exactly where the grade lines and the property are located when I'm adding this stair. So zooming in here, we'll go to draw stair. We'll go with a concrete step with 5 separate steps. So the first click again is the low end of the stair. So click twice to place, and then we can edit it to our liking. Let's zoom in here. All right, so we want to set the stair rise to 3'7¼ and then the offset. So if you did want to set the offset manually, just uncheck cleanup, and then the offset will be available, and set it to 3 feet down. If you need to, we can adjust these grade lines just so that it's flat at the top of the stair. So going to site plan in site mode, so we can manipulate the grade lines. We can use the adjust item command to move these within the stair, just these vertex points, and make some adjustments. There we go, something like that. And we can add a railing to this stair quickly by editing it and enabling left and right rail in that edit menu. If we want it to be exactly the same as this rail, there's a command called duplicate item. So we can click on this railing as the item to be duplicated, press OK, and press the item to receive the change. And then just do the same thing for the posts. Select this round post, press OK, and then the post to receive that change again. Okay. And if you need to, you can edit these posts and set their position. For example, if it needs to be 0. There we go. Okay, next we'll be adding some patio polygons and then a floor slab in the back left corner. So just to go from where the deck is located to the stair, and just to create a path. So staying in site mode, we want to go to draw, site work, and then patio. So the first one we'll add in the raised portion. And then you can see it's automatically following the ground, so it's just at a 0-inch offset. And then we'll add a few more on this side. You can zoom in if you want to be as accurate as possible, but you can always edit these after the fact. So for example, if you wanted to make sure that these were 4 feet by 4 feet, we could run a dimension horizontally and run one vertically, edit them, and make sure that they were both 4 feet in either direction. Erase the dimensions if they're no longer needed, move them into place, and we can add a few copies. So using the copy command, I'm just using the letter C on my keyboard. So we can move it up a certain distance, equally spaced between, and say maybe I want 3 copies. So there we have these large patio stones. To make sure that they conform to the property, we can edit them and press Fit Site Polygon to Ground, and then repeat edit on the remaining ones. For the back left corner, we'll add a concrete slab, since that'll be easier for the cabinets to reference. So going up to Draw Slab, we'll just put one in here. There we go. That should be roughly the size we need. Yep, roughly 27 by 14. That should be good enough. Now, in site mode, you'll notice that the shot points are visible, and if you didn't necessarily need them at this stage, you could turn them off by going to Visible Items and disabling shot points. Just to simplify the site plan if you're just in more of the design phase, or you'd already set up the elevations to your liking. For the structural slab, we want that to be 3'4" down, just so it's sitting flush at the grade. If we did need to add a few more shot points, we can, just to make sure it's flat in this corner. So we could turn the shot points back on and add some individual shot points. So draw, grade, shot point. You can set the elevation beforehand, setting it to 3 feet down. And using the cursor snap, you can place it directly on the edge of the property, flattening that area out. Okay, so we have that taken care of. Now to add the cabinets. So I'll zoom in on this corner since that's where we'll be adding it and switch to drawing mode. So I also have the floor slab visible in drawing mode so I know where I need to position these cabinets. So let's go up to draw cabinet base and we'll add a 30-inch cabinet first and then two 24 inches to sit underneath the grill. One more 30-inch and then a 36-inch corner cabinet and then a 24-inch and a 16-inch. Now, if you wanted to set the face layout, actually, let's undo that last one. You need to make sure that the shape is set correctly. So we could set that back to rectangular, go to 24-inch, and then go to the 15-inch. But we can set the face layout beforehand. This is already set the way I want with 3 drawers, but you could change it by going into the face layout here prior to adding it to the drawing. So there it is. It just took a moment. However, we'll need to edit 2 of these cabinets individually to take off the countertop and make it a lower height. So I'm going to right-click the cabinet run and choose Explode Item so that I can edit these two 24-inch cabinets to turn off the countertop and give it a height of 24 inches. And actually, while I'm here, I might as well change the face layout in the face tab to something like a 2-drawer configuration, something like this. So since I've done it for one, I can repeat edit for the second one, as you can see here. When you want the cabinets to join together again, just perform a cleanup. And then for this individual cabinet on the end, we can go into the cabinet run tab and choose to turn off the cabinet name. For the countertop here off to the side, I want an overhang only on one outer edge. So what we can do is turn off the cabinet at the countertop for this portion and draw one in manually. So going up to draw cabinet countertop, I can sketch this in here. And this can be adjusted after the fact as well. So just to have a bar that people could sit at, and then we can edit a certain edge and give it a deflection if we wanted to for more of a curved outdoor bar. Okay, and for this cabinet over here, I'm going to replace it with a symbol. So this one in particular, to replace it, we'll go to the base cabinet tab, go to replace cabinet, and let's search for the symbol. So this is just an outdoor refrigerator. Press OK, and then the symbol has now replaced that base cabinet. And then you can see that in the floor plan as well. Okay, now let's switch back to add more symbols to the drawing. Since we're already in drawing mode, let's go back to the symbol dialog and add the grill. So this one is the 48 Ultima. Once we've drawn it, we can move it into place. And I believe we'll have to set it to a 2-foot offset instead of 3, just so that it sits directly on top of those cabinets. Off to the left, we'll add some stools. Stool 05. And then make a couple copies, multiple placement. You could also add some decor So for example, a basket of fruit, we could place that on the countertop. And then a carpet like we have for the screen porch. We could add that in this area. So the search just makes things a lot more efficient if you know what it is you're searching for. We can move that into place. And then this love seat down here. And then we can place an umbrella too. Something like this, but we may have to move that. There we go. All right, so now to add the fence. So going back to the site plan, we want to go into site mode and go to draw site work fence. So in the wood fence library, right at the bottom is one called square straight 6 foot. We'll draw one all the way around. And then if you do want it to align with, say, the back of the driveway, you can turn on the cursor snap and you get the projection snap. But when you're done tracing, right click, and the fence should automatically conform to the grade of the property. As you can see where we add our grade lines, the fence does update. To add the fence gate, let's go to draw site work fence gate. It does require 3 clicks. So to start, finish, and then what direction it'll be open. But we can move the fence gate along that edge of the fence and then proceed with editing it to a specific size. We can give it a double gate, have it open in 3D, and do something similar over here. Right, edit this fence gate, set this one to 3 feet. Maybe we only want a single gate, but still have it open in 3D. Okay, now we can add some more trees and vegetation to the site plan and add a planting bed around part of the deck. So sticking in site mode, let's go to the site work pull down planting bed and add this here. I'll just run it directly underneath the chimney. And if you want to make sure that the planting bed is cutting the property, we'll need to edit it and make sure that cuts ground is enabled. So that way you'll be able to clearly see it in 3D once it's been added. There we go. Now to add some vegetation. So we'll add that vegetation polygon along the right side. So up in draw, vegetation, vegetation polygon, we can choose a particular symbol to repeat within that area. So in this case, I'll go to the high surface count trees and select the hickory tree. And then you can adjust this slider here to control how densely populated that symbol will be within the area that I'm about to trace. So I'll just crank it up to 200 since they're large trees and trace this out here. And then unlock the cursor if you're going to be drawing it on an angle. There we go. So as you can see, they are larger trees, but you can edit it after the fact to change density if you didn't want that many of that particular symbol generating. Okay, now to add some more symbols in here. There is a hedge symbol that we can add on the inside of the fence. So when we do go to draw symbol, this one is called hedge 04, just the one I'm going to use. It's just more of a billboard symbol as well, but we can place that up against the fence and then make copies of it along both sides. just for that extra level of detail. I'll just overlap them slightly. And then one more, just for an example of what you could do with some of these symbols. So the hedge 4 is under the billboard shrub library. Okay, now to add some trees. So back in the site plan, let's start with pine. Now, once you've drawn the symbol, you're not stuck with the size that it's set to currently. So we could go in here, turn on maintain aspect ratio if you wanted the depth, width, and height to change at the same time, so it doesn't appear stretched, for example. So we'll set the height to 30 feet just to have it be more of a mature tree and make some copies of it. So we'll draw this along the back and maybe add a couple here along the left. For some juniper trees, place these lining the pathway. There, we could put a few chestnut trees down near the bottom right. And then to populate the planting bed, we can add some ash trees. So in this case, if it's a large list of results, you could just go to the left and locate the library where you believe it might be, if you roughly knew where the symbol might be, so that we can find it. So you don't have to go through the whole list. Let's do that. Okay, and then you may want to add a small shrub in front. So there's one here called Trio 6. We could add a couple of these. There we go. Let's take a look. If you did want to get rid of the split screen, you can right-click one of these tabs to move it to the previous tab group, in this case, the 3D view, so that we're back to one tab in full screen. So as you can see, we've drawn our deck, the outdoor kitchen, we have our screened-in porch, and one other thing I wanted to mention is the sun options. So just to control the position of the sun and where these shadows are going to display on your property. So to get to it, let's go up to options, sun options. So we can choose the time zone, the time of year. In this case, I have today's date, and then the time of day. So it's set to 1 p.m. at the moment, but you can select the hour, for example, and go between the up and down arrows to move throughout the day. So we're at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. So we're starting to get longer shadows in this late summer. And this is also assuming that north is straight up the page, which is the default for your projects. So if we go back to the site plan, you'll see that the direction of north is going straight up. If you did need to change the direction of north, just go up to the Edit tab and go to Direction of North, assuming you're in site mode, and you can change that accordingly, and that will affect where the sun's located, even though you're using the same time of year and time of day. So just something to keep in mind as well. One other thing I wanted to mention in the sun options, aside from how bright you make the sun, is the color temperature of that light source. So instead of being stark white, maybe you wanted to give it a sense of, say, sunrise or sunset when the temperature is a bit warmer. So you could go to, say, a light orange. So then you can see that changed the entire color temperature throughout the entire model on the outside. So there it is, just one way to create an outdoor living space. Well, I appreciate you all joining me today. I hope that you learned a lot. And just as a reminder, we do post these videos on our YouTube channel in case you wanted to re-watch certain parts or you can't make it to one of our sessions. Thanks again. Bye for now.